Hello, friends and fans of the podcast. Welcome to another episode. I think I just saw blood squirt out of my mouth as I was talking. Holy crap. Wow, let me try that again. Welcome to another episode of B Sharp and C. Lately I've been doing weird voices. Maybe that's a voice that I could do for one of the episodes, and then I'll just go to my nearest throat surgeon, because I'm probably going to need it. Anyways, this episode is a wicked weird one. It really is. Today, we're going to B Sharp and C you. That's right. The listener reactions to whatever the heck I've been posting lately. And I'm just going to blow through them. I think this is an episode, a surprise episode, by the way, for you fans. I really appreciate a lot of the what's it called again? Hold on, it's coming to me. I'm not going to pause it. Let me think of the word. Word, where are you? I appreciate the support from the fans, from you guys. It's been great. I'm averaging a good amount of listens per episode. People from all over. Hey, whoever is listening over in Spain, thank you. There's someone in Spain, or maybe it's more than one person. I don't know. But every episode that gets launched, my Spain listens increase. In Spain, just past Russia for most listens. So United States is number 1, Spain is number 2, Russia is number 3, and then it's like French, Italy, and what have you. I think Brazil is like number 7 or something like that, which out of 25 countries is actually kind of nice. So we appreciate all the listens. And I just want to let you know, the music that you heard at the beginning of the episode, though it wasn't a complete song and it's not playing now in the background, all you hear right now is me talking. My beautiful voice, I will sing for you. No, I won't actually. In fact, the song that you heard in the beginning of the podcast, the intro song, is literally, I say literally a lot. I need to stop that. I literally need to stop saying literally so much. I literally say it all the time. And it literally is literally annoying. Anyway, the song that I played at the beginning of the podcast was my newest piece. It's called Ain't Home. I ain't home, baby. So don't be knocking on my door, 'cause there ain't nobody here. It features me on everything. Trumpet, keyboards, everything. The whole song is me. Now, there are 4 songs that are in the works right now that are with other people. And when you work with other musicians, aside from having the talent to be able, the skills to be able to write a song and make a musician want to collaborate with you, aside from having that, you have to have one other thing. It's the P word. Patience. I have a bunch of songs with all different musicians from all different levels and walks of life. One musician is actually kind of funny. He was raised by wolves. He was found in a cave in Michigan, and at 3 years old, and he was deported to the Congo. I mean, I don't know why. They just decided to deport him to the Congo. And he was white. Like, you find this little boy in a cave, raised by wolves, and you just deport him to some foreign country. So he was raised by the folks in the Congo after being raised by wolves. So he speaks many languages, wolf being his first language. No, I'm just kidding. That is a complete line of crap. No, the musicians I'm working with right now are from all different walks of life. Unfortunately, none of them are raised by wolves. But I love collaborating, and I never know how to collaborate. I always enter into like this whole process of, hi, my name is Artie, and I write music. Want to hear my song? Oh, you like it? Oh, that's surprising. You wanna play on it? And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But um, yes, patience is necessary. I mean, some things take months, some things take weeks. I'm kind of like, I'm not like that, but then again, maybe I need to just, I don't know. Like, I've had people send me stuff like, hey, can you add such and such to this song? And like 2 days later or the next day, I'm like, what do you think of this? Maybe, maybe I need to increase the quality. Wow, that Artie guy works really fast. I mean, it was out of key. There was timing issues. It's completely unusable. But wow, he returned that email the next day. Too bad we have to delete it and ask the next guy. No, but seriously, literally, this is I literally. Sometimes I say literally when it's like totally not necessary. Artie, I had chicken for lunch, and yeah, I wasn't full after. I find that the chicken dinner from that place down the street, that Greek restaurant, fills me up. Well, I literally had a cheeseburger. And it's like, in what sense would you figuratively have one? That's what I want to know. Well, I think I overuse the word literally. You know what it's like? It's like when someone prefaces what they're about to say with the words just saying, or they finish their statement with just saying, as though that means it's okay. You can say the most insulting thing to somebody, but if you say, well, I'm just saying, after, you're safe. Hey, Steve, my goodness, you know what I've noticed? Your acne is like out of control lately. You've been washing your face in like grease or something? Oh, I mean, it's not a big. I mean, I was just saying. It's okay. It's not a big deal. As though my horribly insulting statement all of a sudden doesn't matter. I can say whatever I want as long as I say, well, I'm just saying. After, try it. Walk up to like someone you don't know and just say, wow, you look like you've gained 90 pounds. Are you eating lard every night for dinner? No, I'm just saying. It's not a big, yeah. And then see if they get offended and get ready to run, because some people will just punch you in the face. All right, but anyways, this episode is not about me talking about nonsense. This episode is about you guys. So I'm just going to go over what you guys was like replied, and then we'll talk about it. I mean, I'll talk about it. And this is really good for me, because if you say something I disagree with, I can just disagree with you back, and you have no way of arguing with me. Like if you say something, I can say, that's wrong. Listener of the podcast, Gary, you're an idiot. You're wrong. And you really can't come back with anything, because this is a monologue. So take that. No, seriously. Okay, so I posted on Instagram, does the music you like usually end up on the Billboard Hot 100? Which, by the way, I believe started in 58, 56? I forget when the Billboard 100 started. But yeah, in the 50s. And there used to be jazz on it. Like, like there were artists of all walks of life. Jazz, rock and roll, this, that, and the other thing. Now, instead of jazz, we have something that a lot of us like to call crap. We have complete and total crap on the Billboard 100. Oh, wait, am I giving my opinion again? I'm sorry. Okay, so I asked the question, does the music you like usually end up on the Billboard Hot 100? 18% said yes. 82% said no. 82% of the listeners do not find the music they like on the Billboard Hot 100. There is hope for mankind yet. I like that. I like the fact that the majority of the listeners of the podcast don't just accept what's being fed to them as they drive to Walmart to, go food shopping, or as they drive to the beauty salon to get their hair done or whatever. I like the fact that people are looking deeper than what's on 107.9. Oh, look, I like this song. It repeats the same verse for 6 minutes straight. This is great. I'm just going to sit here and take it all in. There are people who do that. And what's even more interesting about that is It's popular. It's popular. They're making they're making money hand over fist, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars to send to the radio waves. I want to be, oh, I want to be with you. Oh, I want to be, oh, I want to be with you. Oh, I want to be with you. Oh, I want to be with you. Oh, I want to be, oh, I want, for 4 minutes. I mean, maybe there's some great production behind it, and usually there is. I think production has gone up like tenfold in the past couple of decades, and songwriting has essentially disappeared. I wrote a song. Here it is right here. It's only got 5 words and 2 chords. Well, it's really 1 chord, but at one point, I pretend it's another chord. I make a funny face when I play it. But I think we can make something out of this. And then in comes the A&M big-time music producer, and he's like, well, son, I can work with this. Let me take this into the studio and see what I can do. And then like 2 days later, after using auto-tune, and not pitch correct, because they're not the same thing. Sorry, people, pitch correct and auto-tune are not the same. I got to get that out there. If a singer sings a whole entire song and then he's flat on one note, and then you go in there and correct the pitch for that one note, you did not use auto-tune for the song. To me, they're completely different, but yet so many people put them in the same category. Anyways, the producer goes into the studio, does his magic. A couple days later, comes out with a song that sounds like body yaddy 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 body yaddy 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 for 7 minutes straight. Hey, it's raking in millions. So who's the idiot? It's kind of me, to be honest with you. But anyways, all right, next Instagram question. Do you think the radio does a good job playing good music? All right, let's see what the fans thought about this. 67% said no, 33% said yes. So most people believe the radio does not do a good job playing good music. Now, okay, here's my opinion on that. I agree. The popular stations, and you're going to laugh at me, and you're going to say, well, what does Artie know? Okay, here's what I know. I've been around for a long time. I've driven a lot of cars. I've driven a lot of cars, and I've totaled a lot of cars. So I know what I'm talking about, okay? No, I'm not going to tell you the first car I ever drove. In my mother's maiden name. And the street I grew up on. And the last 2 things I bought with my debit card. Those are questions people are answering on Facebook. What's wrong with this world? All right. Your mother's maiden name, the last thing you bought on your credit card, the street you grew up on, and the first car you ever drove is the weapon you have to use come the end of the world. And I'm like, gee, I can just give you my social security number and my passwords. I mean, it save you the effort, you know? Anyways, so going back to my story of me driving and crashing cars, yes, I have done it all. And while I was doing it all as a young buck, as a teenager, early 20s, the whole bit, right? As I was doing it all, I always listened to the radio. Always. You have to find the right radio stations. Radio stations sometimes are popular because the DJ, the dude that talks, is funny. People like him. They like his voice. Which is why sometimes they'll play like 3 songs, and then there's a 20-minute talking segment. They have people call up. They interview people. It's actually, some of these guys are really entertaining. I think some of these guys should be comedians. Down here in Orlando, there's a radio station, and they're pretty good. They play some like classic rock, but it's like 4 songs, and then in the morning, the host is talking to his co-host. It's a couple. Male and female. They're not like married, but it's a couple. It's male and female, and they go back and forth. And my wife tells me stories all the time, and she loves the guy. The guy is so funny, and he is. I forget his name. I would mention it if I could think of it right now. But he's funny. But that's the thing. A lot of radio stations are popular because the people the DJs or the whatever they're called, the radio Js. I don't know what the heck they're called. They're actually funny. All right, 67% do not think the radio does a good job playing music. Okay. When you get in your car, let me just bring this over. I'm like twisting my neck trying to read these questions. All right. There it is right there. When you get in your car, do you use the radio to listen to music? And then I was specific, so I said, I mean like an FM radio station. 79% said no. So we have a high number of people who actually don't think the radio does a good job playing good music, and a higher number who actually, when they get in their car to drive, they don't put the radio on. 79% said no. I don't even use the radio when I get in my car. And I like that. I like that. It's people being proactive. They're using whatever they want to use, but they don't use the radio. They take charge of what kind of music they listen to, and I find that to be very encouraging. All right, I asked this question, and I thought this was interesting. Do I lose the audience? So when I talk technical about music, you see, Sade, she uses the minor 9 chord when she sings, and her voice is singing the 2 of the scale. And I don't know if you know, but the 2 is very special. It ain't the 3. It is sure as heck ain't the 4. It's the 2. And, I've received comments from people like, hey, Artie, this isn't Juilliard. Knock it off. So I asked the question, do I lose you when I get technical on the podcast? 60% said no. I mean, do I have to say the other percent? You can do math, right? 40 said yes. 60% of the listeners replied and said no. They do not get lost when I talk about technical stuff. So I think what I'm going to do is water down the technical stuff. I think if I get into a long technical subject, the listeners of the podcast are going to be like, oh, here he goes again, talking about the flat sixth. What the heck is he? What is a flat sixth? I don't even know what it means. So, all right. Anywho, now let's get into name dropping. Yeah, I like to name drop. I asked the question, what do you think of the band? And I have an episode coming out in the future about this band. But when I do surprise episodes, I just record them and throw them on. When I do other episodes, believe it or not, they are in a queue. So this is in the queue for like mid-August. It's a band called Greta Van Fleet. And I asked the audience, I asked the listeners, what do you think of the band Greta Van Fleet? And this is what's interesting. So Brett, friend of the podcast, he's actually, he's got his own podcast about Star Wars. It's called The Skywalk. What I like about The Skywalk, it's a good thing he has Jeff. He has a co-host named Jeff. And Jeff is really good because what he does is that he brings the balance to the podcast. Like, he's the intelligent side, and he kind of like balances off a lot of Brett's comments. So, Jeff, you might not be a fan of my podcast, but I'm a fan of what you do. You really do make Brett look smart, and I think he needs that. And I'm sure he appreciates that, You're looking out for his best interests. So, but anyways, Brett commented about Greta Van Fleet, and he said this. He said, I think they're not bad. They're very Zeppelin. Okay, so Brett, first of all, I agree with you, and so does on half of America. What I don't like about this image they have, about them looking Zeppelin, is that when he sings, when the band gets going together, the whole bit, all of it, if you listen to all of their B-side music, they sound like Rush. In my opinion, they sound like Rush. But all of their big hits sound like Zeppelin. So people hear their hits and they say, this is Led Zeppelin. They're copying Led Zeppelin. They're stealing music from my youth. And yeah, I agree. Their hits sound like Zeppelin, but most of their stuff, in my opinion, does not. Jessica, friend of the podcast, simply said this: love them. And yeah, they're good. The lead singer is a riot. First of all, he makes funny faces when he sings, which I guess a lot of people do. And he's like 4'2". So he's the small guy, almost always barefoot while he's out there singing. And he's got the voice of like 1,000 angels. I really do think that they have a lot of talent. And yeah, I have opinions about them. And so for my opinion, I'm going to mention the next comment. Daniel, okay, this is what he said, and now Daniel in just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words, really mixed it up. He said fun. I think they're fun, but uninspired. They're basically a tribute band. All right. Daniel, you threw a lot at me here. Just 7 words. They're fun but uninspired. Like, make up your mind there, buddy. No, but seriously, I agree with you. They are fun, and they all have talent. They all have talent. And I know what you mean when you say they're uninspired. And, okay, what I want the listeners to do who want to take Greta Van Fleet seriously, and take my word for it. I know a little bit about classic rock. I'm not a huge classic rock guy. Everyone, people come up to me and they're like, "What do you think of the band?" Yes. I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And I'm not a huge classic rock guy. I like classic rock. I love what they've done, and I love what they came from. But listen to the Led Zeppelin 1 album, and every song is its own personality. Every song is inspirational. Every song stands out as its own entity. Every song has its own identity. I didn't mean to rhyme, but I'm just speaking from the heart. I'm telling you right now, if you listen to Led Zeppelin 1, you would see why Led Zeppelin exploded onto the scene. 1969. And they were late to the game. Some people think Led Zeppelin was, just they throw them in with the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. No, 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 no. They came in 1969. They came a little after some of the other people, and especially if you want to talk British invasion, they came a couple years after. And so you had the Rolling Stones. You had other bands that were making a splash, and you had bands that were using keyboard, and bands that, let's use the guitar, and you had bands that were experimenting. Led Zeppelin, every song on that album stands out. It's like, oh. And when you think about it being 1969, and when you compare it to what else was happening at that time, then you can really understand just how gigantic Led Zeppelin was. I think Greta Van Fleet is a great band of great musicians, but Daniel, although your comment appears to be contrary, I know exactly what you're talking about. They need to sit down and take their time writing the music, and really, like the guitar player, I think he's great. I think the singer's phenomenal. I think the drummer is awesome. Nothing against the bass player. I just haven't really listened to it that much. But here's the thing, all right? Give your songs an identity. Allow the guitar to create a motif, to create a personality for the background guitar. Jimmy Page, for as sloppy as I think he was, because I do believe Jimmy Page was sloppy, but he was awesome at the same time. He didn't give a crap. And I don't even think he tried to be unsloppy. He was out there on the stage like, and what he did was awesome. Every song had an identity. And it was a vocal identity, a drummer identity, a bass identity, and a guitar identity. And Greta Van Fleet is kind of like, hey, what do we do? This is my advice to Greta Van Fleet. It took Pink Floyd years to find their identity. And it actually, literally, there's that word again, took them years to find their identity. Just keep doing what you're doing. I think that you're all very talented, and you'll figure it out. You're already popular. You have the platform you need. Um, Give your songwriting time, and ask, each instrumentalist has to ask themselves, does this instrument, does this track in this song have its own identity? And if the answer is no, then maybe work on changing things up a little bit. Whatever the case is, I like them. I think that they're very good. In fact, Sammy, friend of the podcast, he said, "Oh, I like Red of Influence." So he said, "My impression of them is positive. They're reintroducing an era of music my generation missed, along with having originality and talent." And I agree, they do have originality. The keyboard player, who's also the bassist, by the way, is awesome. They solo on the keyboard. They're brave. They're out there doing it. They're exposing themselves. They're kind of like, hey, we're going to do everything within our power to bring music to you. And they're using today's technology, but they're using something that I think that we need to stop and look at. Ready? I'm going to say it. It's a 2-syllable word. It begins with M, and it rhymes with music. You know what it is? Huh? They're using music to try to reach their audience. Yes, they have an image. They're out there barefoot. He looks like Frodo from, Lord of the Rings, but that doesn't matter. He's doing what he needs to do to reach the audience musically. Give them a chance, folks. Give them a chance. So I love all the answers from everybody, and I appreciate the feedback, and I'm dying to see what they do. And if anyone thinks that I'm just being like a snob, like, Artie, what are you doing giving them advice? They're already big time famous, and they are. They have tens of millions of views on YouTube. All I'm trying to say is that bands go from stardom to superstardom when their songs begin to form an identity. And I think that that's something that I still see in their future. I don't necessarily see it now. I see every song they do as, wow, this is good. These guys are good. But I don't hear as soon as you hear the beginning of Stairway to Heaven, as soon as you hear the beginning of even like songs from Billy Joel, and songs from 80s bands, certain things just happen, and all of a sudden it's like, like Take Me On from, what's that, Aha, the name of the band? I forget the name of the band, but that 80s song, Take Me On, right there. That song is a living, breathing thing on its own. Who cares what the band is? Aha, I think is the name of the band. Who gives a crap? That song has its own identity. I see Greta Van Fleet incorporating that into their songwriting and exploding like an atomic bomb. All right, I asked, Fabio, what the heck is wrong with you? I think Fabio is starting to troll me. All right, so I asked the question, when you hear a solo in a song and it gives you shivers up and down your spine, what instrument is it? Fabio says the accordion? Come on. There's no way. I mean, are you serious? Does an accordion solo really just make you stop and say, oh? I want to know. Friend of the podcast, Ricardo, answered and said, guitar, sax, synth, or bass. Wow, a bass solo. Trying to think of a bass solo when I was just like, whoa. Oh, it's a song by Jay Giles. It's a bass solo, but the bass was run through like an effects pedal. River Blindness. Listen to the song River Blindness by Jay Giles. They have a bass solo, and I'm just like, okay, but Ricardo, thank you for your answer. Guitar solos, saxophone, a good sax solo. Synthesizer, Ricardo, I feel you, man. A good synth solo. People don't realize, like, you can make a synthesizer sound like anything, and if you play the keys, like melodically, like Richard Wright from Pink Floyd or whatever, yeah, a synth solo, make your knees buckle. All right, moving on. All right, Name a band or an artist that everyone likes that you just really don't think you've given a chance to, you know? Fan of the podcast, Fabio. No, I don't think he's trolling me here. He said U2. Yeah, a lot of people listen to U2, and it's like white noise for them because they have been saturated with all this other stuff, and their taste has been formed, and U2 doesn't quite cut it for them. Now, I do like U2. I like a few of their songs, but I'm not a U2 B-side guy. You know, I'm not that crazy about U2 myself, but I think that they're very talented. And if you look at their story, yeah, yeah, like they almost gave up music. The guitar player was like, "I suck," and then figured out like how to play guitar, and he still is not considered that good, but yet legendary at the same time. Yeah, that's not easy to do. But what did he do? He just kept pushing forward. Something my guitar teacher once told me: don't tell yourself you can quit ever, and you'll figure it out. And he was right. I mean, look at me now. I'm like Steve Vai, you know? No, I'm not. All right. Well, I thought I was. All right. Friend of the podcast, Isabel, said that the Beatles or Pink Floyd are two bands that like everyone got into, but she never got into. Yeah. I can see that. So the Beatles, I never got into myself, but I can see someone looking at the Beatles and saying, no, because there's other. I mean, let's just face it. There's a lot of music out there. Pink Floyd, although Pink Floyd is probably my favorite band, I can understand someone listening to a 17-minute long introduction to a song and saying, "Yeah, I gotta go to work. You know, I gotta clean the car. I don't have time for this nonsense." And I get it. Pink Floyd's not for everybody. So I can see someone looking at those bands and being like, no. Jessica. So a friend of the podcast, Jessica, said the Dave Matthews Band. Jessica, I'm telling you, man, everyone loves Dave Matthews. And I've had people come up to me like, Artie, you're a music lover. What do you think of Dave Matthews? And I'm like, his last name sounds like a first name. It could be Matthew Davies. Honestly, I know nothing about them. Okay, ready? Artie, name a Dave Matthews song. I can't name one. Sorry, I can Google it and cheat. I can name 50 of them. Never got into Dave Matthews. And I know they're talented. The dude plays a nice guitar. He travels. From what I hear, the dude himself is actually pretty nice. Donates a lot of money, does charity work, does workshops, talks to people about becoming a musician and stuff like that. I hear they have. Is it a sax player or violin player? I know they have an instrumentalist who plays either a wind or I don't know. It might be both actually, but I know that they're famous for incorporating other instruments into their music. I should like them. I know nothing about them. Talitha, friend of the podcast, said Maroon 5. What's the matter? You don't like someone who always sings in a falsetto? Yeah. I love Maroon 5's first album. I think their second album is a nice sophomore album. And the rest of it, I'm like, okay. All right, Adam. I get it. You were on The Voice for 77 seasons. You didn't have time to write good music. I get it. I remember, it was the early 2000s. I remember listening to the first Maroon 5 album, thinking that these guys were going to bring back rock. I thought of that back then, and I was wrong. So anyways, yeah, I can see someone listening to them and just being like, I need to get into these people, but I just don't know how. Yep. So thank you for your comment, Talitha. So that is essentially it. Let me just double check if I wrote anything else down. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. Yeah, there is one other thing. I asked the audience. I put, I forgot about this. In fact, I asked myself if I was even going to put it into the episode, I asked the listeners of the podcast, are there moments that you ever feel extremely unintelligent? And Brett, friend of the podcast, responded, I don't know exactly what you mean. Can you rephrase the question? And then he put 3 question marks and the emoji of the guy like scratching his chin. And then 10 minutes after that, he texted me again and said, I think I know what you mean. Oh, wait. No, I don't. It was something else. Can you please explain your question? And that's it. That's all I got from Brett, friend of the podcast. So, yeah. All right. I'm not too sure what that's all about. But at any rate, I don't think I need to rephrase the question. I think Brett's response to my question is in itself a clear answer. Anyways, I'm going to close the podcast now. So the beginning of the podcast, I played the beginning of my new song, Ain't Home. I'm going to take you out with the full, complete version of my song, Ain't Home. It is now on YouTube, all streaming services. And by the way, people have been asking me, Artie, where do I find your music? And my answer to them is, it's 2021. If you don't know how to use Google, you might have other issues. No, but seriously, I do have a website, artieastormusic.com, artieastormusic.com, artieastormusic.com. I was just using that old psychology trick that they used to use in TV commercials. Mention your number 3 times, and people will always remember. So I mentioned my website 3 times. artieastormusic.com is a 4th time for you. What are you going to do about that? But yeah, you can go to my website. You can go to Spotify, Apple Music. Actually, all streaming services, my music is there. And I'm surprised you never heard of me. I'm quite a big deal. I mean, in my house alone, at least half of the people that live here think I'm pretty awesome. So that's saying a lot. Saying a lot. Anyways, this is your host, Artie Astor, from the surprise episode of B Sharp and C, saying, keep it groovy, baby, and stay tuned. I mean, normally we do episodes on Saturdays and Wednesdays, so that's going to continue. But you never know when a surprise episode is going to come. I'm like a thunderstorm in Florida. I can just happen anytime, anywhere. No one knows. Woo! All right, keep it groovy. Until next time, folks, thank you for listening.